Ooh.
Here we go. So you can hear me well, Dave, yeah?
Yes,
Well,
I can.
good, great. So lovely to see you. I'm back in the UK now. Thanks for coming back on board. For those watching this, thank you. I know there's been a lot of comments on the chat I've had with Dave because you want more information. I will try and be quiet, but for those people that have made comments saying I'm rude or I'm anxious or whatever it is, I'm just a person having a conversation with Dave. My channel, Wise Women Weekdays, is a means to chat with people that have got a lot of information to share, and Dave is definitely one of those people. So if you like the chat, great, give it a thumbs up. If you have comments, fine. I do read all of them. Dave reads all of them, and we do reply, and we will get back to you. But give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe to the channel so you get more information. I am going to try and be as quiet as possible, but there will be questions that I have to help Dave with his flow. But there's a bit of a banter here between Dave and Paul. So I'm trying to be neutral in this so that both people can say what they want to say. Ultimately, it's for you as an individual watching this to make up your own mind. It's all about discernment. And in this world that we're moving forward, that's what we're trying to do, is bring information to the fore, thankfully, because of the internet, but also books, and libraries. Go and get the information, make your own decisions. But any questions you have, put them on the format and we'll come back to you. So Dave, lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining me. And how are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. Still in paradise, still enjoying it. So, all good.
Good. Well, as I said, it's lovely to have you back. I'm just gonna, let you go with it, and then as questions pop up, I'll just say, I'll put my hand up and say, hang on, what about this? So where do you want to start with this? Do you have a starting point, or do you want me to start you off?
Well, unfortunately, I made notes from Paul's last video, and literally last night they all went. My computer crashed. I didn't save the file. All went. So the bone of contention, it seems, between his video and my video is who are the parties to the contract. So there's a covenant between the Most High and a particular people, and the bone of contention is who are those people today. Now,
can I come in straight away, Dave, and ask why you call him the Most High or the Almighty, or do you not call him God or Yahweh, or is there a particular reason?
The reason is because right, so the translations that we've got literally passed through a group of people called the Masoretes, who took out the name of the Most High because they said, oh no, it's too holy for people to know. They took it out and replaced it with all sorts of other names now, or titles, more importantly. Now, most of the names that they've given this Most High are actually names of fallen angels or other gods, like El, which is basically the name of a fallen angel, which is the same as Jehovah, which I think is a god of mischief, and Yahweh is another. The word God itself is Gadriel, the angel in the garden with Eve. Rather than use one of the manufactured titles that that mean other gods, I'll call him the Most High, which is what he is.
Okay, that's fine. And you said Elohim comes into it somewhere along the line, doesn't it? The Elohim. Can you tell me what that is?
Okay, so now this is something that the Christians will jump on and say this is a proof of JC, that the word Elohim was used in the beginning of creation. So the word for God there is Elohim. Now Elohim is a plural. It's a plural word for the word El. Okay. Now when you look up the word El, you'll find it means mighty man, angel, worship as a god with little g. Yeah, they put in the big G, God, but I think that was added later. But when I think I went through with the way that Paleo Hebrew works. You don't just choose the meaning you want. You put all the meanings together and see what that tells you, that it feels to you. So when you put that together, it means mighty angel worshipped as a god, yeah, or a fallen angel. So so yeah, it says, let us make man in our own image. It's talking about the angels, the Els, okay? And when you look at the names of the angels, Michael, Uriel, Raguel, yeah, it's telling you it's about angels. But again, that was one of the words. Well, I said all the names of the Most High were replaced. It makes it difficult because now you can't tell if it's talking about the Most High or it's talking about someone else.
So when we're talking about angels, you know, people say when you're in need, call out for Archangel Michael or Gabriel or the other angels. Are you saying, are you bringing these into the same domain here?
Well, you've got celestial beings that were created before man was created, right? And you've also got some of those beings who rebelled, who rebelled against Most High and rebelled against mankind. So yes, you've got, you know, the idea of good angels who watch over the, you know, the people and the place, and you've got these fallen angels who have you know, taken a hand. Yeah, the bad guys taking a hand in the way this world unfolds.
And do you, I think, God, I'm thinking from my brain here from days gone by. Was it Doreen Virtue? She used to write, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she used to write a lot about angels and then she changed, she jumped ship. I think she denied them all. So do you know anything about her?
I don't know anything about her specifically, but you know, I can quite easily see that somebody who's into this idea of angels, just assuming they're all good, right, as you do if you don't understand the whole Nephilim story, and then realizing that she's kind of communicating or worshipping almost these other ones, and
Right, okay.
those other angels are the old gods, you know. In all these other cultures, there's always these old gods that people worshipped.
Okay, so we're talking now just about the Almighty, the highest, the source. Can we call him the source of all or whatever? Right. Okay. So, and I think when you're looking at Paul's videos, Paul English, for those of you watching this and thinking what we were talking about, there's like a little, you know, a few conversations going on here. So it's worth going back and looking at these. I think 2 or 3 videos back. And I think you and Paul both agree in the whole about the Old Testament and the history and the Israelites and stuff like that. But then it goes a bit AWOL, or there's discrepancies about who are the chosen ones. Now, I always thought it was the Jews are the chosen people and they all have to go back to Israel. But then people said, oh, no, actually, it's the Caucasians, it's the white. And then you're saying, actually, it's not, it's darker skinned people. And the darker skinned are different to African dark skinned. Is that correct as well? So can you tell me first the difference? Yeah, what's the difference? What kind, how dark do you have to be the chosen one?
It's nothing to do with the color of your skin. It is about the nation you belong to. And when I say nation, I'm not talking about, you know, modern nations, you know, which are essentially lines drawn on a map. Yeah, I'm talking about a nation of people, a group of people who are specific from other groups. And those lines were drawn, you know, after Noah and, you know, the Table of Nations after Noah and his 3 sons. So, yeah, this is where it gets contentious, because, you know, it starts going into this idea of skin color and race and all this. Race and geography, they're all sort of creations, later creations of man. They've got nothing to do with this. Okay. So, okay, in Africa, there are 2 nations of people there. There are the native Africans, right, who descend from Ham. Okay, so Ham, the son of Noah, right? They're the ones who were given those lands, which is essentially North and East Africa. Okay, because the rest of Africa was a wilderness. So they were given those lands. The other black people in Africa are Shemites. And most of them got there because when the Romans attacked in 70 AD, the Romans attacked Jerusalem, about 1 million of those Israelites escaped into Africa. Okay, now the Egyptians didn't want them, because they remembered what happened before when the Israelites were there, right? So these Israelites went into the wilderness, went into the places that nobody lived, and they built civilizations down there. So we call them today sub-Saharan Africans. Have you not noticed that there's a distinction between Africans and sub-Saharan Africans? Because there are two separate nations. But today they've mixed in. They're not so much mixed in, but they live together. And usually in every so-called African country, which again were just lines on a map, in every African country there are two factions fighting each other, because you've got people who are saying that the other people are strangers, they're newcomers, they're intruders. Yeah, so yeah, it's again, the difficulty here is this idea of race, and people get very sensitive about race. Now, the reason that these people are chosen isn't because they're particularly special in any other way, apart from the fact that they were the original blueprint that the Most High created, and that creation got corrupted. So the Genesis 6:4 talks about angels coming down, having sex with women, and spawning their own bloodline, and that was foreshadowed, as it were, in I think it's Genesis chapter 3, where it says, "I will put enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent." Okay, well, when it says serpent, it means the angels. Okay, so it says something. It goes on to say, "They shall bruise thy head, and you shall bruise their heel," or something like that. Okay, but it mentions head and heel. Okay, now it might surprise you that there's no references to head and heel, and obviously there's lots of references to head, but heel, right? There are no references in the Old Testament and the other books associated with it to the heel, apart from he was running on the heels of this person, right? Well, I say there aren't any, but there is one in the story of Jacob and Esau. Okay, so going back to the fallen angels came down, had sex with women, spawned this other bloodline. This other bloodline mixed with humanity so much that the world had turned wicked, because there's only essentially one man left who was of the bloodline of Adam, same blueprint of Adam. Yeah, that was Noah. So when the flood happened, it was to wipe out that corruption, but the corruption was in Noah's children. So that's how it got to the other side of the flood. And I went over this last time, but the post-flood part of Genesis was the Most High getting back to that original bloodline, getting rid of the corruption by saying, okay, you have to marry this person, and you're not allowed to marry outside of your family, as it were, and essentially getting back to that original bloodline. And it happened when Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob. Now, all the fallen angel DNA got concentrated in Esau, but it was absent in Jacob, which is why now all Jacob's children were chosen. Not because they were particularly special, because they were back to Adam's bloodline. Yeah. So the story of Esau and Jacob, right? When Rebecca, their mother, was pregnant with them, the two children were fighting in the womb. They were literally fighting each other in the womb. Okay. When Esau was born, Jacob, right? So Esau was born head first, yeah. Jacob was hanging on to Esau's heel, head and heel, yeah. Right. So that's the only other place that the heel is significant, right? Now there's a book in the Apocrypha called Second Esdras, and in Second Esdras it says essentially that Esau is the head. Esau is the end of the world, right? So he comes first as being in charge of the world. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is that which follows. So when Esau's rule, which is where we are now, when Esau's rule has ended, Jacob's dominion starts. Okay. Now, Paul said that he didn't really know what it meant by, I can't remember how he said it. I had it all in my notes, so annoying.
And your notes are gone.
Yeah, they're gone. He said he didn't know what it meant, that what their job was once they took control. The job of Jacob when their dominion starts is to be the priesthood of the Most High. Right? The law, statutes, and commandments the Most High has already put out there. Jacob's children were meant to exemplify those commandments or those laws, statutes, and commandments, but they kept going wrong, right? And basically, and this is what the Old Testament says, when Jacob comes back into his own land, the Most High is going to write those commandments on our hearts. So we don't need to know about the Most High, because we'll already know about him. We'll already know about the law, statutes, and commandments. And so Jacob will be the priesthood of the whole world, making sure that these rules that will make a harmonious world are adhered to. That's the job. It's not to control. It's not to dominate. It's not to conquer. It's to make sure that we have a harmonious world.
So this is all in the Old Testament, and it all makes sense, and it's a lovely story, and it looks like we're playing it out, on planet Earth. And my question was, what is their job when it happens? When is it going to happen?
Right. So, very interesting. There are two sources of prophecy of the end days. There's Daniel's prophecy. So in Daniel, it talks about how there's going to be four kingdoms reigning over the earth. Okay, and the fourth kingdom will be the worst of all, and it will be the last, essentially. Okay, and there's a section in Daniel where it says, for a times, and a dividing of times. Okay. So again, that sounds very confusing. Don't know what that means. But then you go into Second Esdras, again, a book that was taken out and hidden. Right? That's what Apocrypha means. Okay, it's taken out and hidden. Now in Second Esdras, Ezra is talking to an angel, and he's saying, the angel was saying that the world is waxing old, right? And so, Ezra is saying, well, how old is the earth? How long we got left until the end of the age? And the angel says that the age of the earth is divided into 12 parts. 9.5 parts have already gone, which leaves 2.5 parts. Times, and a dividing of times. to me, that links up together, especially when the angel says, you know, I told Daniel about what was going to happen in the future. I didn't tell him everything. Here's everything. Okay, so they're both saying the same thing. So I'm saying that the 6,000 years of this age is divided into 12 parts. Okay, and in Ezra's day, about between 200 and 400 years BC, there were 2.5 parts left. Now, I think a part is 500 years. Yeah, if you divide 6,000 years by 12, you get 500. Right, so it would say that in Ezra's day there was 1,500 years left. Now, that would say that, oh, you know what, if that was a prophecy, then it's already passed. Yeah, the year 1,500 is already gone, right? But later I found out about somebody called Anatoly Fomenko. Have you heard of him?
No, what flamenco like?
No, not flamingo.
No, that flamingo's a bird. Flamenco is dancing. Flamingo's a bird.
Flamenco. No. Anatoly Fomenko was a Russian mathematician, and he was working on a problem where they know where the moon's going to be. They can calculate where the moon's going to be at any time. But it turns out that there was a period where the moon jumped. The moon seemed to jump from one place where it should have been, and it jumped to somewhere else. Now, NASA came up with all sorts of ideas, gravitational anomalies and all that. But Fomenko was looking at it, and he realized that the moon didn't jump, the calendar did. So, you know, they can calculate it by dates and calendars and stuff. But he worked out that, okay, what he did was he looked at all the accounts of eclipses, right, in history, and then worked out mathematically when those eclipses should have occurred. And it turns out the calendar's been shifted 1,000 years. And the most likely time that calendar shift would have happened is in what's the word I'm looking for? In the transition from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so in that transition, they told us they shifted the calendar by 10 days, but it looks more like they shifted it by 1,000 years and 10 days. Because what you're finding is on old buildings where they put the date on it, you'll see the date is, instead of a 1 for 1620, it's a I or a J, right? So it's J 620, yeah? It turns out that just like we would say AD 2010, right? Or 2010 AD, right? Anno Domini means year of our Lord, right? Year of JC, yeah? Instead, the convention used to be to put I or J for JC. Yeah. So I, meaning year of our Lord, 620. But then over the years, they just simply changed that I to a 1. And now, and hey presto, 1,000 years gets added.
Mm.
If you take 1,000 years away, we're right about the right time for the end of the age that Ezra says, because this isn't the year 2025, this is the year 1025, you know, according to Fomenko. So we're in that region of, you know, time and a dividing of time, 2.5 parts.
So is this the end times according to the Bible? Are we literally living the end times, and Jacob's ladder is going to pop up, pop down, or whatever all that is about? Can you tell us more?
Right. Yes. So I'll try and find it because I've actually put notes down. Again, I wish I wish I'd
Yeah,
kept
Dave
all this
said
stuff.
before this, it was off record. So we were having a quick chat before we started recording, and Dave said he had all these notes on the back of the conversation I'd had with Paul, but then they got wiped off, as often happens with computers. Yeah, this happened. So that's why you're looking now. But have you come up with anything?
Right, yeah. So so hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. No, I won't share it yet, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that Paul mentioned, right, he disputed the idea that I know that we're in the end times because the last prophecy that the Israelites were going to go into slavery and affliction for 400 years, he said, no, the 400 years happened in Egypt, okay? Well, that can be easily disputed because just by reading the Old Testament, because if you read in Genesis, when Jacob was going to go down to Egypt to join Joseph, it tells you who went with Jacob. Who went with Jacob into Egypt. And when it came down to the Levites, it mentioned somebody called Kohath. So somebody called Kohath, who was a Levite, went into Egypt with Jacob, okay? And Kohath lived 133 years. But Kohath had a son called Amram, right? Who lived, I believe it's 137 years, okay? Amram had a son called Moses, right? The Moses. And when Moses was 80, that's when they left Egypt, okay? So Moses' grandfather went into Egypt in the beginning, and Moses left Egypt with all the Israelites. So the maximum they could have been if Kohath had Amram, on the day on the year of his death, right, at 133, and then Amram had Moses, well, on the year of his death, right, the maximum it could be is 350 years. So not 400 years, yeah? If you go into the book of Jasher, I believe, it tells you point blank, they were in Egypt for 210 years. So no, Egypt wasn't the slavery and affliction we're talking about, because also Moses talks about what the slavery and affliction would look like in Deuteronomy 28. In Deuteronomy 28:68, it said, you'll go into Egypt again with ships. So it's not talking about the first Egypt, it's talking about another one, another period of bondage, okay? So no, that period of bondage started in 1619. Now, another thing Paul mentioned was, well, there's been slavery all through history. So how do we know that's the one? Well, in Deuteronomy 28, when it's talking about this slavery, it says, I will bring a nation against you of fierce countenance, as swift as the eagle flieth. Okay, mentions the eagle. The nation we're talking about symbolize themselves as the eagle. So, I mentioned this last time. Yeah, they were the Greeks, they were the Romans, they were the Germans, and now they're the ones behind America, right? So it was that bloodline taking him into slavery was the start of the 400 years when the eagle bloodline took them. Yeah. So that's a marker to say, we know within the end days when that 400-year period ends, and that 400-year period ended in 2019, August 21st, 2019. And the next line says, that nation, the one that took them into slavery, shall I judge. Now that nation is a worldwide nation now, right? The three-headed eagle that I mentioned last time, that's overspread the whole earth. So the whole world is being judged right now. which, you can feel that, can't you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's
the
a bit of a
whole world, the whole world is going through the same things all at the same time. Yeah. So that's why I know that we're in the last days. That's also why I know that we're talking about, this particular group of people. Now, I think I mentioned to you, and I think I put it in a comment, that I can prove there's a line of King David that went into slavery and into America. Right, all the way from King David, all the way to slaves going into America. So I'm going to have to share my screen. Okay, you tell me. If you see.
Oh, yeah. You're starting to sharing. Yeah, there you go. Lots of pictures.
Okay. All right. So let me see if I can find. All right. So. Okay, so the reason I know I can prove this is that Adolf Hitler had a report, had a book commissioned essentially to find out who the Jews were, because he realized that these people that in his land weren't the actual Israelites. He wanted to find out who they were and who were the actual Israelites. So he got this particular book. I'm not going to pronounce it because I don't do German. So he got this book commissioned, and so this chapter is, and you see the translation, a descendant of King David up to the present time, right? And it's the Charlap Don Jashia family. Okay. Now, a bit of background. When the Israelites were taken into captivity in Babylon, right, it turns out that the king of Spain asked for the nobles of Judah, the family of King David, to be taken to Spain. Okay, and that happened again when the Romans attacked. A whole load of the noble families of Judah were taken to Spain, and they lived in Granada, and they actually became a whole nation of people in Spain. Okay, so this document follows, and it's very difficult for you to see this, but it's probably small, but you can see at the beginning here, right? David, it starts with David, where, I don't know if you see my cursor.
King David, yes, I can, and people can obviously,
and the next one is, maybe I can zoom in here, yeah? So it starts with David, and then Solomon, and Rehoboam, so you can follow that in the Old Testament, yeah? Hezekiah, and Jeconiah, right? That's Babylon. Babylon's next. Zerubbabel, okay? That's somebody who's mentioned when they were in Babylon. So it follows the descendants all the way down, right? So you can see the numbers, it goes up here till about 59. So I'm going to go to the next slide, if I can. Oh, come on. Okay, so I'm zooming in now on, I should have highlighted the one before, 47, Don Jashia, yeah? Okay, or Jashija or something. Right, so that's an English way of pronouncing this, okay? Now, a J the J's didn't exist before 400 years ago, so that would have been a ya sound, yeah? So it would start ya, okay? The CH isn't a ch sound, it's a ch sound. So think of the word, if you were putting on a Scottish accent, and you'd say Loch Ness. You wouldn't say Loch Ness like we would, you'd say Loch Ness, yeah? So CH is a ch sound, right? And again, you've got the ya at the end. So that word, it's not Jashia, it's Yahya, or Yahya, yeah? If you anglicize it. So Yahya. Okay, so now you've got the sons of Yahya, you've got Yehuda, Joseph, Solomon, Gedaliah, and David, right? So this is basically showing this particular sequence of lineage. You can actually go to the Jewish Encyclopedia, and it will literally list, and you can see Yahya or Yahya, right? Joseph, Solomon, Gedaliah, David. It's the same people, right? And when you look at the write-up on this family, Portuguese family, so remember Spain, and then you got the Spanish Inquisition, and lots of people went into Portugal to escape, and then you got the Portuguese Inquisition, and so on, right? So Portuguese family, right? And this family, certain individuals of this family, bore the additional cognomen or name Negro, black. Okay, so it was black, right? There were black people, and what happened in the Inquisitions, again, they were persecuting these people, right? So those who didn't convert were taken or didn't leave of their own accord, escaped into Portugal, and there was the Inquisition there as well. And those who from there went on to West Africa, Angola, and other places like that. Okay, so those people went from Spain, Portugal, then ended up in Africa, right, escaping the Inquisitions. So if you look in the slave voyages database, if you go through, you'll find Yahya all the way through. Yeah, so I can show using Adolf Hitler's documents showing a progression of one family, right, going from Spain, Portugal into West Africa, and then to America as slaves. Okay, so I don't know how, if Paul can show, where Caucasian people went into slavery, ending in these modern times for 400 years. Now, let me stop the sharing here.
Very interesting, really interesting.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. It's easy to get upset at this idea, that, oh, I'm not chosen and whatever. Again, it's not about race. What it is, it's about a very small number of aliens, for want of a better word. There's this bloodline, alien bloodline, okay, who were, and I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again if I can, because I want to show you something else. All right, let's see if you can. Right, so bear with me a second. Let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. So, okay, so this is an essay from Benjamin Franklin, okay, 1751. And I'm reading the highlighted section. It says, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionably very small. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy black complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons, and by this it means Anglo-Saxons, the Saxons only excepted, who with the English make up the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. Now, 1751, he's talking about a very small number of this one particular bloodline of people, right? And just to give it show you what he's actually saying, this is it. This is all the white people on earth in 1751, okay? So we're not talking about everybody, right? We're talking about this elite group of people who today would be the ones who are running the banks and running the world, essentially. So, you know, the Nephilim bloodlines. Of course, we don't know who they are. I've just got people's faces here, but we don't actually know who they are. But this is one of the bloodlines. Okay. Interestingly, if you notice, in this is like 3 ages of the Queen. You know, black-haired, grey-haired, and silver-haired. Yeah, but she's always wearing this medallion, this big medal here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
On all 3 pictures. If you look closely at that medallion, it's got a white fallen angel treading on the head of a black man, and that's supposed to be a chain. If you see that what looks like a stick in his hand, it's supposed to be a chain.
Yeah.
Okay, and the words in Latin around it is you know, the promise of a better age to come. Combine that with that picture, yeah, now that's the better age, when that fallen angel bloodline finally subdue the line of Adam. Okay, yeah, one big happy family. I'm looking for a particular so if you watched Harry Potter, right, you'll notice that there's an elite class of wizards, right, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones. Okay, and they look down on all the other wizards and they call them mudbloods, dirty blood. Yeah. So let me see. So what I'm saying here is that we've got 5 groups of people here on Earth, right? We have Neanderthals, right, and descendants of Neanderthals, and that without doubt they're still around, right? They're still around. We've got man, the bloodline of Adam. We've got Nephilim, right? The Nephilim bloodlines, and I think I've done a show on. I think I've mentioned this in another talks, but we've got clones here. Okay, so very quickly, about 100 years ago, there was this phenomenon of incubator babies. All of a sudden, babies appeared out of nowhere. No explanation for them, just hundreds of thousands of these babies, okay? Later on, these babies became orphans, right? And these orphans were transported all across the world to populate towns and cities all over the world, okay? Because it not only happened in America, happened in England, you know, sort of the Charles Dickens era, you know, all the chimney sweeps and the children doing all adult jobs. And it also happened in Russia, okay? Now, the first incubator babies appeared in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. 1891, there was a guy called Hans Driesch who invented cloning. So I'm positing that, you know, in 1893, they started cloning humans, okay? And because, you know, these orphans, there were no black orphans, yeah? They just, hundreds of thousands of these white orphans were now transported over the world. So it went from 1751 with a very small number of white people in the world to less than 100 years later, millions and millions of them all over the world. The reason for this, I believe, is just like the Zionists hide behind a whole wall of Jewish people. So that if you want to try and get to the Zionists, you have to get through the Jewish people who will defend them, right, to the death, because they think they're the same people, right? You've got this real white bloodline, yeah, the small number of people who run everything, and they surround themselves with a mass of white people, so that if you try and attack them, you have to go through all the white people first, who also think they're the same people, yeah? But no, you know, if you're not part of their bloodline, you're not part of them. So in my talk, I usually have that clip from what's the name of the guy? Hang on.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah, you think you're part of the club because you look like these people, but you ain't in it. You're a mudblood.
You're a Eustace eater. If you're not in it, you're a Eustace eater, I think.
Exactly. And if they created these clones, then yes, they're useless eaters. Yeah. And I think, let me stop sharing now. I think that these clones, because they are created bodies, the bodies are created. They didn't create that sense of I-ness, that person, the thinking part of you that knows that you're you. That part isn't in there. Oh, you're frozen. Are you still there?
A blank screen. The words are coming up. There you are. There you are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when they created these clones, right? Yes, they can create the bodies, but they don't create that thinking part of you that knows you're you. Yeah. It turns out that there's a whole population of people who do not have an inner monologue. They haven't got that voice in their head that they can talk to, that that's you. Yeah. So if for instance you were trying to explain something to me, in my head as I was listening to you, I'd be going, that's interesting. Oh, I wonder if that connects to that video I watched last week. Oh, I've got to remember to ask her this because I think I can connect this with it. So as you're speaking to me, I'm having a conversation in my head, analyzing what you're saying in real time. And then I can come up with my own thoughts about what you're saying. Yeah. But what if you didn't have that? If you didn't have that, right, you couldn't analyze new information. Yeah. So imagine you've got a whole load of clones who can't assimilate new information. Up until the age of 6, everything you see and hear becomes your reality. And it just so happened that they invented public school at that same time. So school, we know now, is only to get people to obey authority, get them used to obeying authority. So if you get a load of these cloned children, implant this obey authority meme into them, and then send them out, and now they can't assimilate new information, you've got what we call NPCs, Yeah, so that's
did you ever see a movie called Boys from Brazil with Gregory? I don't know if we've talked about this before, but yeah, same sort of thing, isn't it? I think we might have mentioned it before. I don't know if it was if we recorded it, but it's like the global leaders, isn't it? The young global leaders. They're all sort of clones, these blonde, blue-eyed, youngsters that were deposited in various parts of the world, and they'll. Yeah, interesting. They do kind of tell us what they're planning, don't they, through media, through movies and such like. Indeed. Let me ask you then, Dave, what for the chosen people, whatever colour, like you say, it doesn't matter, but these group of people, what is their role? Why were they chosen, and what are they supposed to be doing, especially if we are in the end times now?
Well, as I said, it is a very particular group of people. It's those who have literally just endured 400 years of slavery and affliction, right? As I said, their role, right, when they go back into their land and the end of the three-headed eagle occurs, their role is to be the priesthood of the Most High on earth, okay? And that's it. It's not domination and conquest or anything like that. It is to represent the Most High on earth, okay, and bring back the laws, statutes, and commandments.
And will it happen organically, or do they have to do something to make this happen? Have they got to wake other people up, make them aware of their role, that why they're here, or is it just going to happen?
Well, according to the book, right, certain things are going to happen. There's a thing, the second Exodus, essentially, because again, the people of Judah have been scattered all over the world. I think Paul said, and he was quoting this silly video about 100 proofs that white people are the chosen ones. I watched that video. I got through 20 of them, and I made copious notes of why every one of those points were wrong. But Paul quoted that that the white people are the only ones who colonized all over the world, just like the Bible said. But the Bible didn't say that. It said you will be scattered as a punishment and a curse, right? No, the British Empire, all these the Western empires weren't scattered across in punishment, but the black people were. Okay, so it will happen organically as far from our perspective, but from Most High's perspective, it's already happened, and it's I believe personally that before America disappears, because I think America is going to disappear, the second Exodus has to happen. Now, I think when we last spoke, you said, "Oh, that has to happen in the next 4 years," right? But I just heard something a couple of days ago that they're saying that Trump could serve a third term because he didn't serve 2 consecutive terms. Right? This one could be counted as a new one. So now he can serve a second term, right? Which if that happens, then the timeline's now been extended to 8 years. Yeah. So that sounds more like a feasible timeline for in those 8 years, right? The black people will be leaving those lands, and then America's going to disappear. Because I believe Trump is going to be the last president.
So if the black people are the chosen ones, and there's going to be an exodus, where are they going to go to? They're going to go back to Africa, or they're going to go to Israel?
I personally think they're going to go to Africa. I'm not sure if that's the actual chosen the land that they're supposed to go, because there's some dispute whether that little strip of land they call Israel is the actual place. Yeah. But my view is that it's going to be, the people are going to go to Exodus to Africa because, well, people don't realize how big Africa is. Because the Mercator map that we're all used to actually makes Africa a lot smaller than it actually is. You can fit the whole of America, whole of China, whole of Europe, and more, all into the African continent. So I think that's where millions of people are going to Exodus to. What happens after that, I'm not sure, but I think that's where they're going to go.
And I mean, it's a beautiful continent. It's so rich in so many things. I spent a lot of time in various countries in Africa, and I do love it. But that really interests me. Obviously, hopefully people find all of this, what you're saying, is interesting. But I'm just going to mention something now. What about, politically speaking, the clergy plan? If all dark-skinned Africans, black people are going to go back, Exodus to wherever, but they're going to leave our shores or the American shores, what about this clergy plan, which is in progress at the moment, where a lot of dark people are coming to us, and they say like in 100 years or 200 years time there won't be any white people left? So that's kind of a contradiction, or is that just a cock up?
Well, here's the thing, with no intervention, no mass immigration, right, the Western countries are going to disappear anyway. I've got a video, I think I mentioned it last time, of an MEP basically saying that the biggest issue we should be looking at is the fact that our populations are decimated, right? They've actually collapsed. Right? He actually said they have collapsed. There's nothing we can do about it. Right? Demographic collapse has happened. So literally, to keep a population just stable, you need 2.1 children per woman. okay, just to keep the population stable. As soon as you go under that, you're now in a exponential decline, yeah, and you get to a point where mathematically there's no way of coming back. Okay, so most people don't understand what an exponential decline looks like. So I have an example. If you imagine you have a jar of jelly beans, yeah, and there's 1,024 jelly beans in that jar, okay, and the first day you go to that jar and you take one jelly bean out, right? Next day you double it, you take 2. Next day you double it again, take 4, right? How long do you think before that jar will be empty? How many days?
Yeah.
Have a guess.
Not many.
It turns out to be 10. 10 days, that jar will be empty. What day do you think will it be when that jar is half full?
Gosh, what day will it? Oh, I hate it when you throw these questions at me because you're making me think. I know you're clone.
It's not meant to catch you out. It's just.
Yeah,
it's just
I know. Well, give us the answer.
Person's perception.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. 8.
Actually, it's day 9.
Oh, I was near then.
Okay,
yeah.
Because if you think about it, if you're doubling each time,
yeah,
on day 9, half the jar, and that's what you take the next day. Yeah.
And most people would say 5 because it's halfway through. But obviously, if you think I understand what you're saying totally.
So what it looks like is, right, for most of the time you don't see the decline, and then all of a sudden you drop off a cliff. Right, that's only a decline of 2, yeah, because you're doubling each time. In some cases the decline is much more than that. Yeah. You've got 2 countries I think are going to be the first to go, Italy and Japan, right? Their population is so low that they're advertising people to come and buy towns as long as they've got a plan to repopulate it, right? There's a town in Japan where somebody's knitting people to populate it so it doesn't look so empty because there's nobody there anymore, right? The problem isn't overpopulation, it's underpopulation. And it's always been the Western countries that have been in drastic decline, you know, even before the Second World War, they're in a drastic decline. Yeah. So the Kalergi plan, well, I don't believe it exists because that would sort of indicate a human agency. No, this is what's happening is a natural occurrence. And that MEP that I mentioned, he said that our only choices are demographic collapse, or we import 100 million people. And that's what they've chosen, to import 100 million people. It's not a plan to exterminate white people. It's essentially a plan to breed a new batch of white people because
we're running out. There was something in 2020 you could access it. You might still be able to access it, but it's a lot of the information is gone. It's called Deagle.
The Deagle report.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a bit of a website for geeks. I think people are interested in military, you know, who's buying aeroplanes and bombs and all that kind of stuff. But in 2020, you could look at it to see the potential population in 2025. And the ones I remember were obviously England, I think, was 70 million. In 2025, it was going to drop down to something like 15 million. And if you looked at that, as I said, I don't think you can have it's been removed, that information. But if you looked at it, it was all the Western cultures, the demise of all of them. And it did say it wasn't due to any viruses or war, or it's just like the natural demise. So it kind of makes sense what you're saying. And I wonder why. Why are we not, you know, multiplying?
Here's the thing. I don't think there's 8 billion people on Earth. I don't think we've been anywhere near that. I think we're already at those numbers that they've put on that Deagle report. Right? Yeah. How would you know? How would you know? Okay, so how many people in London? I think it's like was it something like 6 million people or something like that? 8 million people, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so if that number reduced to 3 million people, right? How do you know? How do you know there's
Do
not?
you not fill in that little form they send? You know, that little census form every so often they put through the door, and they want you, you know, else they'll fine you if you don't fill it in. Who's living in this house, to give, you know, to give you an idea of how many people are. But I know a lot of people don't actually fill those forms in. So yeah, it's a bit of a figure from
Do
the
you
air.
get the information from that? Do you personally get to collate and find out what the numbers are? No, you trust these agencies to tell you, right? So somebody's actually gone ahead and looked at the 300 most populated cities in the world, right? Added those numbers up and got nowhere near even 1 billion. So looking at all the numbers and accounting for everybody out in the wilderness and you know, the rural areas, there can't be more than 1.5 billion people on Earth, right? So yeah, they're playing games, and as I said, they're getting rid of the useless eaters. Yeah, again, I think they created a lot of them, so they've got no compunction about getting rid of them.
Yeah.
But they're trying to exterminate Jacob first.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. What can individuals do, whether you're one of the chosen lot, if you know, if you are the chosen, and I think you agree with Paul that nobody's okay, you might be special or different, but you're not superior, whoever these chosen ones are, to anybody else, but there's a role for them to play. Is there not? Have I got that right?
There's again a role for them to play is to become the priesthood, but what can we do?
Yes.
Well, you know, at the heart of this is a struggle between good and evil. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now, when the Israelites were in punishment for 400 years, essentially the Most High turned his back on the world. Right, so you know, essentially, if you want to follow these gods, right, okay, go ahead, right? See how far that gets you, and he turns his back, and look at where we are today. We're in this hellish nation now, this hellish landscape where children are being sexualized and told they can be any gender they want to be, and have been operated on, and you know, and we got you know, rape gangs running around. We got all this evil going on, you know.
And if you look at the like Kali Yuga, I think we're supposed to be coming out of Kali Yuga going into the yoga world. That is horrendous when you read what happens. But it is happening. Like you say, it's happening. It might not be happening in your own back garden, but it's happening in somebody else's. What will happen to the non-chosen one?
Sorry, what I was gonna say was, you know, at the heart of this is a struggle between good and evil, right?
Yeah.
Your job, you know, is to, you know, resist the evil and do what you can to promote the good, to fight for the good, right? To not go along with the evil and stand up against it, and be a force for the good. Because when it comes to judgment, the book's very clear about what judgment is. Okay. Now, when it comes to judgment, it will depend on which side of the line you're going to fall on, right? What's going to happen to the evil has already been decided. Yeah, they lose, right? Good will win. Okay. The only thing that's not decided is what side of the line will you be on. That's all that you've got to decide. Yeah. So your job, you know, is to stand up against the evil, right? And you know, be a force for good.
But does that apply if you are a non-chosen one? Because like we've said at the beginning, that both Paul and you agree on, is the fact that the book, the Bible, the scriptures, and a scripture means contract, is for a certain group of people that are going to go back to Africa and you know, create a priesthood, and the world will be a very nice place to be in. If you're not part of that, but you might have a good, maybe you're not a baddie, what will happen to those people?
Again, judgment applies to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, whether you're people who are part of the chosen, they're going to be judged even more harshly than anyone else, because they're in the blood covenant to be good, to follow the commandments, right? But everybody else, they're under the same judgment as everyone else. So again, it's always going to be a personal choice. Yeah, you get a choice every minute of every day which road you want to walk on. Yeah. Every situation you come to, you can deal with it wickedly or righteously. Yeah, your choice. But there will be consequences.
So there is a moral compass, obviously, following the 10 Commandments. But this is where I'm just thinking, because the Bible is written for the chosen ones, does he care about those that aren't chosen? Those that have been tainted by, the wrong bloodline, those that aren't chosen, but we're trying to be good people. The commandments haven't been written for us.
The commandments are written for the people, but he wants a priesthood on earth. The Esther are his chosen people, and ultimately he wants his bloodline to be the ones on earth. Yeah. So again, I don't know what's going to happen after the gathering back into the land, but it does say that it's not just the Israelites who go back to the land, it's the Israelites and the stranger. Yeah. So
or maybe the priesthood is the ones that determines what happens to us. Who knows? Time will tell. Time will tell. We've gone over the hour, and I know we could go on for a lot longer. Is there anything? And I only say I go for the hour because I know some people lose interest. Well, not they've got to go off to do something, and I think hours quite a lot. We can always come back and do another one. Is there anything else that you want to add, Dave, about this?
Again, this isn't about race. It isn't about I'm better than you or anything like that. This is a story that's been unfolding. And certain elements of the other side have made sure that we don't get the full story. Right? There's lots about this story I don't know, because there are no references to it. But as some of these books start to resurface, as they have been, we'll get a more fuller picture of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're in the middle of an exciting story, okay? And each one of us is a part of that story.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I said, we choose which part we get to play, and ultimately how it's going to end for each of us. So when I read the book Second Esdras, which kind of lays this part out, that was when it made me go, you know what, I better fly right here, because this doesn't look good. Yeah. So this is the game. It's what's good, right, and what's wrong, right? It's your choice which which path you follow.
Absolutely. I think that's a good way to end. We know we've all got a moral compass. You know what's right and what's wrong, and it's a choice. We all have a choice, isn't it? And when people say, "How do we get out of this mess?" Do the work. When we say do the inner work, be kind, and the rest. Dave, thank you so much. Again, been fascinating to talk to you and to listen to what you have to say. So how can people get hold of you? I will put the links and some of the presentations that you've done, I'll put that in the description. So if people want to find more information that you have to offer, they can do that. You've got a website, haven't you?
I've got a website, allegedlydave.com. It's a bit of a poor state at the moment, but if you want to email me, dmurphy25@gmail.com.
dmurphy25. Okay, I'll put that in. dmurphy25, and I know you're very good at gmail.com at replying to people, aren't you? Because you read the comments and respond. And I think that's why these little chats are really useful, because you're interacting with people, and you also go around the country. Well, not St. Lucia, to do these presentations, or various ones when you're back in the UK. When you back to Blighty?
I'm back in April.
April. Oh my goodness, you are away for a long time. Cool. Well, enjoy. It's raining now as I sit here, but I love coming back to the UK because I like the weather. It's been too hot in where I was in Costa Rica. Anyway, I'll be bored in 2 days. I want to get out. I'm sure 2 days. I've had enough of that bloody grey skies with stripes. Cool. Thank you, David. So speak soon and wish you all the best. You take care. All right.
Later.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.